Honorable Farah Maalim, coming to you, and to quote the president, he said the courts are supposed to serve Kenyans equally, which is supposed to be the case. Judicial officers are public employees, and I assure you that I will deal firmly and decisively with corruption in the courts. He said that yesterday in Uasin Gishu County. And our current dispensation, the head of state has no prosecutorial powers, but there is a provided for mechanism to present all these allegations that he has raised of bribe taking of judges before the Judicial Service Commission, a complaint against any judicial official, which was not done by the government. It therefore qualifies to use the wordings of the Chief Justice. Is it that this is not more than hot air?
I have my convictions on the matter that's basically in debate right now. What you have to understand is that judges have a security of tenure. They're there for the longest. The executive is there, and there's a right of recall every 5 years. Parliamentarians are also elected every 5 years. You call them the independent arms of the state. The independent arms of the state is that none of them has the powers to overload on the others. The other one, the executive, the judiciary, and parliament itself. Mm-hmm. We actually got ourselves into such a difficult position. There is a lot that you better have an element of dictatorship than have a situation of anarchy. You know what I mean? I mean, the state failures come out of anarchy when everybody thinks he can lord over everybody else. So when you say that independence, the independence itself means everybody is independent in executing their role. Mm-hmm. These are my good, what do you call, legal minds. If you remember very well on the issue of Marbury versus Madison, which is one of the celebrated classical cases there, the remedy was there, everything was there, but because Jefferson refused to sign, they refused to sign. So the Chief Justice said, we cannot give orders to the president. You can't give orders to the president. So when the government comes up with its own projects and programs, they are there because they sold these programs and projects to the country for them to be given this opportunity to lead this country. Mm-hmm. You cannot have another institution which determines whether this project rightfully goes into that place or not.
You mean the manifesto that they sold the people?
The manifesto that is sold, and exactly what governance is about is that to execute, to implement projects, to allocate resources, to push all these things. So you can't have another body that says, no, you can't allocate the resources here. You get my point? So I see a rogue judiciary, to be very honest with you. Whether corruption is right, what they call rife in the judiciary, everybody knows. Okay. It's easier to buy a judge than to do anything else. Okay. But
no, Farah Maalim, good point that you raised there. However, when a manifesto is sold, all manifestos, be it that of Kenya Kwanza, what Azimio sold the people, the mandate accorded to Kenya Kwanza, these are variables. What's constant is the Constitution of Kenya, to which the president has the primary mandate of fidelity to the law. He was sworn into office and given the Constitution.
Absolutely.
That manifesto, therefore, is outweighed by the Constitution. Therefore, is it not important to be in compliant with the Constitution if you are concerned about corruption or any other issue that you have against the judiciary? Why not easily make your policies in compliance with the law?
You see, the corruption is a matter that essentially when somebody makes a claim, there's going to be a way to prove it one way or the other. Judiciary is corrupt to the bones. We all know that ourselves. And when you went there through petitions and everything else, you understand it. It happens in such a flagrant, outright way. If I had the opportunity myself, I would have put too many people under prison, because then I would have tapped their telephones, I would have followed it up as a pure executive, what do you call investigative process in which the intelligence, as well as the DCI, the Director of Security of what do you call criminal investigation, would try to bring all these things to stop all these things, because they happen. They happen everywhere. So there's a way to try and follow up on these things, and I don't think the government did use that. Because nobody is allowed to engage in corruption. Nobody is allowed to sell cases. You get my point? Nobody is allowed to be in the tech. And I know of a case myself, a petition case in which somebody was paid close to 100 million shillings and said, even if I'm going to get sacked tomorrow, I have enough to go out there. And the judge goes out there and gives, determines those cases on a manner you cannot understand. Go to the Supreme Court, for example. You remember the petition of the governor of Wajir, where, Supreme Court says, you look like you have a degree. And the evidence is full, massive evidence is here, including the man appearing before a parliamentary commission when he was a parliamentary committee when the person was supposed
vetted for ambassadorial,
in which he says he does not have any of those qualifications. And the matter itself that is at the highest apex of the apex court. You understand my point? So we have a rotten judiciary the same way we have rotten many other institutions in this country. Let me just finish. Let me just finish.
Please.
See, I can see the frustrations on the part of the executive. I have a similar frustration myself because there are programs and projects that I'm getting implemented in my constituency. And any crook who used to, plug himself into that and used to make money out of it would go to the courts, and you hear the courts giving orders and saying, conservative orders, stop these things, you cannot do this project. Now, for how long? These people do not have the luxury of time. They have 5 years to prove to Kenyans all the infrastructural development that they have to do. And if you don't allow them, we have 5 years as members of parliament to bring in as many laws as possible. I'm just looking at the totality and the philosophy behind some of these things that are happening right now. You don't see anywhere, very, very limited cases in which the judiciary, whether it's in the common law, in the Westminster system, or even in the American presidential system, the peer executive system, where they are always after the government, telling the government you can't do that. For example, I'll tell you, there is a massive, a difference between Republicans and Democrats when they come to power on matters of energy. Republicans don't care about the environment. They will want to go in and drill for oil or for energy in the seas, in the shores, and everywhere. But you see, nobody can stop them from doing that. The courts cannot come to them and tell them, no, you cannot go and drill for energy in the shores because of this environmental and this kind of things. Instead, they wait for the people to pass the judgments of them and make sure that they lose in the next elections. The right of recall, you are accountable as an executive to the government, to the people of the day. You were elected by the people. You sold your manifesto there. You have a limited time to go and implement on those manifestos. You don't have the luxury of courts coming in, you stop this, orders this, orders that.
They are not just coming in, Honorable Farah Maalim, as a lawyer. Courts of law, courts of evidence, and they rule and determine cases. Depend on evidence presented.
You see, let me tell you.
Okay, we'll go on. Allow me to bring in the Law Society of Kenya president. And you have made critical submissions in regards to the millions of shillings you said a judge had taken. But as a lawyer and as a lawmaker to that effect, I expected you to file petitions before. Well, you
can do that, but let me tell you one thing. Let me tell you one thing. They protect one another's back.
How about the case of Said?
Just a moment. Oh, what did happen to Said Machitembe? His people went in there, bugged him. If that evidence was not there in which somebody went in there and tapped him, he would not have been taken to, the matter would have been over. His own judiciary would have protected him. But here was, the evidence that you cannot rebut. How many people can do that? How many ordinary Kenyans can go walk into a judge and do all these things and again get that kind of evidence on tape? You see what I mean? Nobody. But one thing is that, you see, by denying what is happening right now in our system, I do understand there's corruption everywhere. There's corruption in the legislature, there's corruption in the judiciary, there's corruption in the executive. There's no doubt about that. But for God's sake, the least we expected is the judiciary to be corrupt, because that is the final arbiter. And that's where we have to go. But the fact that the judiciary is corrupt, ask me. I have seen it myself, because I tried to get a lot of remedies in there and I've seen what happened.
Thank you.